Welcome to another episode of Winning for Life. Be inspired and enjoy love. Be happy to be alive. So that is a nice sentence, be happy to be alive. And oh gosh, and what times are we living at the moment here? More separation, a lot of struggle, fights, and even war. And now just recently, because of the Ukraine war, Zelensky was in Washington, and gosh, what a drama on TV. Vice President and President Trump, they're kicking Zelensky out of the Oval Office. This is come back if you really want peace. So, as you know, originally a German, even if I for more than 27 years not living in Germany, but still I'm looking what are the Europeans, especially Germany, sharing about this. And says, wow, this is so new world order now, and this is the end of the Euro world, the Western world, we knew it, and if you look what they're talking about, it's more about their values, not what really happened. And I want to encourage you to always look deeper and look for the truth. Okay, that is an interesting game, what happened there in Washington. And we don't know exactly if it was a setup or not, but maybe it was a setup. But so what? Is it no evil that we talk? And all the world is discussing, is this a setup or not? Was Zelensky maybe stoned and whatever? Just what we are talking about. Is this really the most important stuff with this situation? Hey, there is war and people are dying. A country is destroyed. For 3 years it's going on, the war. But what we saw in Washington, or what we see in Europe now, wow, now we need to protect Ukraine. Why now? Why not 3 years ago? See, if we always stay on the surface, we don't getting it. And I saw now messages that says, wow, what Trump is doing is blackmailing Zelensky to get a better deal of this important stuff what Ukraine has to offer, the minerals and so on. Wow, is this totally new that there are power games? You know, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Europeans and the US made sanctions to Russia. Yeah, so what is that? It's a power game. They tried to force Russia to make peace, but it didn't work. The way they tried to play it didn't work. And if we go in the COVID area, what happened there? Gosh, were we betrayed, and there were contracts done with the pharmaceutical industry, and when Parliament wanted to see the contract, all was blackened. What is so now blackmailing or blackened? What is really going on? And I tell you, it's nothing new, really. If you look at history, world is always a power game. The problem is, if we're living in an illusion and not seeing what's really going on, then we might be surprised. And that's German. I was surprised when Putin invaded 3 years ago Ukraine, that the German Chancellor Scholz said, oh, I'm surprised that this happened. Gosh, he has secret services and everything, and so on. And the war started, the real fighting with shooting started already 2014. And if you go back more into history, what is a Crimea and everything, gosh, what are the politicians telling the public? And they're ignoring now. And for Germany, or let's say for the German chancellor and the so-called Ampel government. Ampel is the word for traffic light, is a red, yellow, green. There was the three parties. And they were so in an ideology thinking, ignoring reality. So for them, it was really great that Putin invaded, because all the failure that did, everything what was messed up, everything what didn't work in the countries, Putin's responsibility. Putin's responsibility. And that is so crazy, and it's just a big lie. But, and a big but, what is the truth? And I like to mention again, once in a while I mention it, we all know about Martin Luther King, who was really engaged to get the civil rights for everybody. And I read in his biography that the enemy for him was not just the white government, it was also his own people. Because they said, what do you want? We are mediocre. We are mediocre. And they believed it. And the slave believes that. And you can see what happened in COVID, how easy it was to really get the whole country back in slavery mood again. Very few were there stand up and dare to say what they think is the truth. But this is a crazy thing. If I see now just the recent election in Germany, and I see it in other countries as well, they vote for the same people who lied to them. They lied about the COVID. And in Germany, for sure, we know we have an institute, the RKI Institute, Robert Koch Institute. This is always where we were looking, or the politicians were looking, what they say is medical truth. And they said, COVID is not that dangerous. And the politicians decided, be quiet, we want to use it different. And they used it different. So we know today it's public. Someone sued the RKI that they need to open up the files. And now we see all the protocols from meetings, and that the people in the RKI says no, but the politician used it to get the country and people in fear and cut off some civil rights. And now, election. It's like the Stockholm syndrome. They vote for the people who take you hostage. What do you want? We are mediocre. And that is what slaves believe. A lot of people say, oh, it's just me, I can't do anything. Yeah, if 1 billion people say this, 1 billion people not doing anything. But we're still the majority as people, and now we see slowly the truth comes to the surface. And what happened in Washington is nothing new. The only new is that it was on TV, that we can see it, because everything else was behind doors, or even in the contract, blackened. Just get it. We're talking about democracy, and the members of the parliament are not allowed to see a contract which was not done by the parliament, just by some few politicians in power. And I had a former podcast about that. Even if you believe it was necessary, it was not necessary that the pharmaceutical industry gets all the big profits, billions of profits, and that the people have to pay for their personal disaster, sickness because of the actions. And we know today how dangerous it was. And I did some podcasts and episodes here and on my YouTube channel. You can listen to some stuff, how dangerous it is, how criminal it is. And I say, really, people were consciously misused or consciously killed. Besides the lack of dignity, old people need to die alone. There were couples 50 years married, and we're not allowed then to sit at the deathbed of one another. It's so crazy what people are doing to each other. Is this new? No, it's not new. If we now had Gaza and this, is this new? No, it's not new. Nothing in this way is new. But the old thing is that we are cowards and not really standing up for principles. That is maybe a little bit worse. But it's somehow, for centuries, we're just in a kind of survival mood and not going for the truth. And that's why for thousands of years it says, know thyself. Where are you tricking yourself? Where are you programming your brain and believing your brain, believing identifications and not identity? It's about the truth, and the truth, or let's say the universal laws. They didn't change in the last thousands of years. From Buddha to Jesus to today, the universal laws didn't change. But we don't live in a world where you go to kindergarten, to school, and they are teaching the laws. No, they're not teaching the laws. They're teaching you ideology that you ignore the laws. And that is what Martin Luther King really wanted, that he said there are laws made by God and there are laws made by man, and they should be aligned. Yes, God is not responsible for how we organize traffic and traffic lights. There we can have our rules, but if we create rules which violate the law, or if we have politicians who go in a power game and the win-lose game, if you suppress the people, you're violating the law. And it's just a question of time, then you see it's not working. Nothing is working on the long run if it's against the laws. And that's why when I come back to what we saw in the TV, what happened in the Oval Office with Trump and Zelensky, and everybody is now upset, oh, something new. It's not new. That you see it is new. That we are here somehow communicating about via an online radio, this is fairly new. And how the world is functioning, what power games are there. Look at the history. Churches are fighting, everything. In the name of God we kill. Yeah, and what did God say? Don't kill. It is crazy what is done, and that you get all the Christians, for example, in a war to kill others, even if the God says, don't kill. It's so crazy what we're doing, but that's what we individuals are doing. We know better for us what is really good for us, and we're violating every day our best interests. So when I say it's not new, I can share stories from Germany. Now we have these immigrants problems everywhere in Germany talking, and the right wing gets more votes because of that. It's not because of that. It's because of an ideology. You know, I'm now soon, next month, my birthday is the 7th. 73. I will be 73. Gosh, interesting number. So I studied law around 50 years ago. And 50 years ago, we had already problems in school teaching, right, that people couldn't read and write, right? And when I studied law, I learned there was an interesting way of making money for lawyers. Some had a law office and they didn't do anything else, just having for so-called immigrants. But this was not really an immigrant. This was about people who were brought into the country and they said, oh, we want asylum and now fight in the government that we can stay and get money. They didn't do anything else than 50 years ago. But today, everybody says it's new. Everything is Putin. Because we are ignoring all the failures in the past. Because we don't dare, politicians don't dare to say, oh, I made a mistake, I'm responsible for that. Because they're so afraid not elected again. But I believe it's the opposite. You always will win. But people will not like you if you say the truth. But if you say the truth and are able to create results, good results for the people, then you will always be elected. But if you lie to yourself and to the people, you can't create good results. Because if you ignore the truth, you can't create good results. If you're violating the laws, you can't create good results. And Germany is down. If the train comes only 60% of the time on time, bridges, streets, everything is in a bad shape because we messed up and paid money for everything else, and the politicians getting more and more money, and now it comes out, we had a lot of demonstration before the election, right wings, that it seems to be 9 billion were paid to so-called NGOs, non-government organizations, because they can do things what governments are not allowed to do. So the government gave them money to organize those demonstrations. Now, after the election, the one party asked now the government they should open the books and say how much money went to these NGOs and how it was used. Then they say, wow, that's not good to do this, that's against democracy, and that's not fair to do that. Those who want to run the country say it's not fair in a democracy to be transparent and share and show where the money will go. And then you see there is always these who are in this party believing that. It is really like a strong ideology, a strong religion. All those who believe something else are enemies. That is not the Christian, well, that's not love, and that is not democracy. Democracy needs that you accept and tolerate opinions even if you don't like them. Otherwise, there is no democracy. Otherwise, there's only stupidity. Then, because of law, universal laws, there can't be only one opinion. Nobody knows what really the truth is. We can come closer. We can be in the pursuit of truth. But nobody has 100% the truth. And it is like if you look at nature. See, the best form of nature is if there is only one plant. I guess one plant, one animal, and we have a collapse very soon. Nature created a different survival strategy. And if you just think in sports, or let's say take soccer, only one type of players. You can have 11, but what is it? 11 goalkeepers, 11 scorers, whatever, but not different. Nobody's defending, nobody is offense. How do you do that? It's so crazy if we are not learning diversity is key to life quality. And that's why spiral dynamics, that partly mentioned here, is about really learning to be integral thinking. And it's just today, at my age, I see the world totally different than with 17. I had a different worldview. The world was even different, but I couldn't see and understand so much. But today I know I am not my brain. I am not my thoughts. And if I believe I am the brain, if I believe my thoughts, I'm in a big trap because of my life. As I change my worldview, if that is possible to see the world different, like some people say, if you're with 20, not really a socialist, then you don't have a heart. If you were 30, still a socialist, maybe then you have no brain. It is about really getting those and getting and understanding the reality. And reality is nothing is fixed. Nature, universe is always changing, is expanding. It's always something different. And if we are not adjusting, if we try to keep the world like we want to have it in our ideology, sooner or later, we're in the fight with the world. And maybe we have some power and can suppress some people, can create the slaves, but it will not work. And I learned it hard with my own personal body. My brain had ideas what to do, and I ignored my body. Can simply be, as a student, we were drinking a lot. My brain cells didn't like it, a lot of other cells didn't like it. But we were so proud when we were drinking. Later I was just sitting in the office and ignoring nature. I didn't need to walk because sitting in the office and making money is important. My body had different ideas. And today, okay, I have to struggle with all the things which I ignored. All my problems I have today is because I ignored something. And that's why my mentor Bob Proctor always said also, it's not about courage or cowardness. The main problem for people is ignorance. So, are we ready every day, or at least once a week, to check, where was I ignorant? Where was I really fighting for my ideas of life? And not values, ideas how the world should be. So I recommend reflect, reflect, reflect. Yeah, reflection is important, and reflection means not only what I do or not do. It is really, then what is the truth? Can we go to the truth? And like I shared, I realized a lot of things 50 years ago. A German education policy started in the 60s, so it's even nearly 80, no, sorry, it's not 60, also 60 years ago, that the politics decided we want that everybody gets a good grade, so we lower the standards. There was a decision in the 60s in Germany. So it starts always very early to make the mistake. And let's just imagine you're on the motorway and you're driving your car, and if you just turn the wheel 2 degrees, maybe not directly you feel the problem, but just Where would you be if you could drive another 100 kilometers? You will leave the motorway, you go in the fields and everything. Let's say the car can manage this, ground is good enough. You will be so far off from the motorway. And it starts at the moment when you're not having the steering wheel really positioned right. That's why it's important. The moment you do something wrong, you get the information. Or like modern GPS says, turn right now, turn left now. Oh, next possibility, yeah, change that. Directly you get the answer, not 2 hours later, or what we see now, years later. So what is new today when we see the Trump-Zelensky? That we have different tools. We have now internet. We have different communications tools. We have blogs, podcasts, that the message goes out. In former times, we didn't see when they're talking. Nobody could see what happens in the Oval Office. There were only selected journalists who got a kind of prepared education and framing what they should write. And there were very few, like in the Washington Post guys who discovered the Watergate scandal and everything. There were a few who could make it, but the rest was all covered up. All covered up. And now you see when the discussion in America that Trump says, no, we want to open up the files. Who murdered Kennedy? Gosh, 60 years ago, we're still not allowed to know. Weinstein topic, we're not allowed to know. Everywhere it is. And it's not new. Just the way we see it is new. The separation between Democrats and Republicans, and we go to America, is it new? Go in the 50s. What was a fight about the communists there? McCarthy area. Is it all new? No, it's nothing new. And it will not change if we, the people, if we, the slaves, not changing. Only if the slaves wake up, then we have a chance. If everybody from the politicians who like to frame us, manipulate us, create fear in us, would know that those things not working, then they would stop. Because they can do it because it works so far. That's a slave accept everything. They say, okay, if I can have my barbecue, then it's fine. But they ruin the country, and a lot of people don't have a barbecue anymore. They get food stamps. So it's just a question of time. Even so-called flight animals, if you stress them too much, if you bring them too much in the corner, then they start to bite. Then they start to fight, even if it's not a fight animal. So, what can we do? So first of all, be clear about your principles, your values, and the universal principles. What is really a universal principle? So that we simply say it's not the politics and everything. I don't know if you like God. I never used God. When I had a lot of time, I said, I don't dare to use the word God because I'm pissed off with God, and they stressed me, they used it against me. But today I use the word more and more. But you can say universe, source, or whatever conscious field. There is something more than just on the material world. And I think all on the planet Earth, it's very easy to say, just imagine there is a God, a creator, or whatever you call it. Not the guy with the white beard. I don't have the picture of this. If you go to the Maasai, they say, she is black. Doesn't matter, but there is something, what is to say, higher, what has different laws than just the man-made laws. And my life started to change when I had all my stress with my dad and the families and other people around me, and I felt like a slave. And then I said, oh, God is stronger than those who punish me or want to make me spoil. So starting to believing in a higher power helped me. And what are the values of this? And then you can study a lot of what they call wise people. But there are also wise people in a suit with a tie, because there's a lot of people who really say we go with the values. So that's why when you see something, like say, should have, in Germany in the 60s, they lowered the standards for education. That's how they say it in English. In German we say wehret den Anfängen, but in English it's nip it in the bud, or nip things in the buds. So before it starts, you need to correct it. You need to correct it directly. But then you need to know it. You need to see it. You're not allowed to be framed in this. And you need to have the courage. This understanding of yourself, so that we say, stop, that is against the values. And in a good company, it's the same thing. Culture is so important. Like Peter Drucker, kind of really super guru in management theories, says, and culture eats strategy for breakfast. Company success, 66% is culture. So what is the culture in your family? What is the culture in whatever community you belong to? Is this a culture we face everything? We are not tricking, we are not hiding. We want to see the truth, even if it's painful. Face the facts, even if they're brutal. Like Jim Collins said, that makes a big success for some managers, which were beating 15 years a market in his book, From Good to Great. Those managers were not afraid to face and to cover up. No, they face the facts, and even if they're brutal, but then they can change it. Because on the level of duality, where a problem is, you can find the solution. But if you ignore the problem, you never will have the solution for it. And that's where we're living in. Politics have the power games and not really interested in the best for the people. It took me, like I said, a long time changing my mind to think, what is the best for my knee? What is the best for my feet? What is the best for my organs? What is the best for my body cells? Oh, what a different thinking. But that's what we need to know. What is the best for that? So if you see something, or better, feel something, because we feel if something is not right. Our limbic system has no words, but feels that something is not right. And then the moment you feel here's something not right, what are you doing then? Giving up, hiding, or that, hey, here's something wrong, let's find out what it is. And I can say when COVID started and all the vaccination stuff came, I have no clue of the medical part. But the way they were acting, I knew here is something wrong. I felt it directly, because if people really work that different opinions are not heard, if they need to work with fear, then I know something is wrong. if they're not really spending money to strengthen the people and say, hey, we make a campaign that everybody knows what the best for the immune system, no, and they make a campaign for vaccination, then we know here's something wrong. So I knew something wrong, even if I couldn't explain it. Later, I had then YouTube videos or other videos with experts who could explain me what was wrong. But then later we just had also the contracts, blackened contracts. So we know what we see in the Oval Office. It's not new, and we shouldn't be upset about it. We would somehow, now maybe you're wondering when I say this, we should be happy about it. Why? Because now we see what's going on. It comes all to the surface. And if it comes to the surface, we can decide how we want to have it different. And it's not about, was now Zelensky stupid? Was Trump just a deal maker? Was it a setup? Forget about it. What is it what we really, really want? What is that? It's not about discussing it on a surface. It's about what are the true values, what are the laws of the universe, how we create peace, how we can, in my terms to say, create win-win situations. It's not about win-lose situations. But the moment you go in the discussion, was he right or was this person right? You're in the win-lose game, not in a win-win game. And you're discussing only what they should have different. Oh, he should have said this. No, he shouldn't have done that. Diddly. Hey, it is about how we create peace, how we live in those countries. Is it Ukraine? Is it Gaza? Is it Israel? And you know, there are a lot of other places. If you look at Africa, how many killings is there every day? We only look there if they have some material stuff we're interested in, or have some power, military interests in. And it's not yet that we really want everybody on planet Earth can live in the dignity, happy, healthy. We're far away from what the Human Development Index, which is for more than 20 years at the UN, really wants to understand. The humans are the most important. It is all what we are doing for the best of the humans. And here you can reflect your daily thinking. Is your daily thinking more in separation or for the best of humanity? I know that's very challenging, and I know even if I have the idea to control my thinking and not be the slave of my thinking. My thoughts are not my boss. My true self is the boss. My authentic self should be the boss and not my thoughts. My thoughts, my brain are the limitations. I need the brain that I can survive here because I couldn't handle all the information which are available all the time. So that's why I need values for myself, and they should be aligned with the universal laws. Then I have it easier to decide, is this good for me? Is this not so good for me? Is this really good for me? And here you can always check every decision. Is this good for me? Is this good for my family, friends? Is it good for my company? Is this good for my country? Is it good for planet Earth? Is it good for humanity? And ideally, everything fits in this and is aligned, that everything is what is good for you is also good for humanity. That's what we mean, our meaning is with winning for life. Because those who only want to win in life, they're creating the disaster because they're playing the win-lose game. And if you always play the win-lose game, it's just a question of time. Just imagine if it would go on and on and on, and you, the super winner, and everybody else, all the other 8 billion people would lose. Then you're one day there and have nobody to talk anymore because only losers around you. What a shibbity life. Can't work. Is not. But if we create more and more winners, if we get the culture of winning for life in win-win situations, we always can support each other how to go on the next level of life quality of life. But therefore we need to have different questions, not the surface question, was Zelensky or Trump or the diddly? No, that's like I wrote it in The Millionaire Spirit. Should I smoke Camel or Marlboro? It's not the best question, because what you need to learn now, was Zelensky stoned? Oh, what do we need to learn? How someone looks, what does it mean, could it be, and check if he was stoned. Was this a setup from somebody I need to learn? Or no negotiation technique, what is it? What was it done in Kansas? Maybe yes, it was. And so what? So what? What do we do now to coming closer to peace? And that is what we really, really want. And I want to use again the poem from Marianne Williamson, which is, what is our deepest fear? Our deepest fear is not that we are mediocre. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And that's why they need to frame us. That's why they make us believe we are the slaves, because otherwise we would use our power. And this poem from Marianne Williamson, some say, but it's not 100% sure if it's really true, Nelson Mandela used it when he became president. And but what we can learn from Mandela, he was a kind of rebel, he came in prison, he was 27 years in prison, and what did he say? What is he doing there? I was preparing for the time when I come out. And when he came out, everybody expected separation, the win-lose. Now we change who is winning and who is losing. But he said, that's not the real world we want to live in. And it's time now for forgiveness. Forgiveness starts here and now. So check for yourself. If you see Trump Oval Office, if you see whatever in the news, go out of this win, lose, right, wrong. What is it what we really, really want? It is time that we change, that we really go cut this infinite loop which we would otherwise have and go on the next level of a different quality of life. There's enough money on planet Earth, enough food on planet Earth, and where we have a lack of creativity and courage in this way. So stand up, be ready, be inspired for winning for life. You have the responsibility to